Hello there, welcome to part 16 of my Clone Wars analysis series. In today's video we'll be examining The Hidden Enemy, Season 1, Episode 16. The goal of this series is to unpack the Clone Wars anime show and look closely at its themes, characters, and politics. As always, there will be spoilers as we are covering the entire episode and series. That said, let's jump into it. The Hidden Enemy is a standalone episode, but due to its plot connections from Christophsis, it's arguably the middle part of a trilogy spread across the Clone Wars medium. Exploring clone individualism and decision-making, this episode presents us with Slick, a traitor to the Republic who believes the clones are enslaved to the whim of the Jedi. This episode plays off of murder mystery tropes as Captain Rex and Commander Cody have to deduce who is the traitor amidst their ranks. The quote for the episode is, "Truth enlightens the mind, but won't always bring happiness to your heart." To sum it up, the truth hurts. And context for this episode is because there is a traitor amidst the Republic forces, and in a military where all the soldiers are brothers, it is a hard pill to swallow. In Star Wars, there are many moments where the truth does the opposite of bringing happiness. For example, when Luke is told that Vader is his father, it is a painful moment and he tries to reject that truth. Another example that comes to mind is when Dooku tells Obi-Wan that a Sith Lord controls the Senate, but Obi-Wan rejects it because it isn't an ideal truth. This episodic quote tells us that to open our minds, we have to accept the truth, even if it's a negative one. Going past the surface level truth that a traitor is a clone, Slick's words may be the truth that doesn't bring happiness to the characters and audience. He's ultimately correct that the clones are tied to the Jedi's bidding. They are forced to fight in this war and don't have a choice. It is what they were bred for. The episode starts with Christophsis under siege. This episode is a prequel to the Clone Wars movie, and later in Season 2 there is a prequel to this episode called Cat and Mouse, which explores the space battle that took place before the ground siege and attempt to help Christophsis. As of right now, I haven't covered the Clone Wars movie, only the episodes in Season 1, but the Clone Wars movie opens up on Christophsis with the Republic in a disadvantage and on the defensive. This episode gives context to why they're so disadvantaged in the movie, as the traitor will destroy their weapons depot. The episode opens with Anakin and Obi-Wan preparing to engage in a battle. Each Jedi is stationed in a tower on opposite sides of a main road or highway system, and their plan is to ambush the Separatists, presumably by firing down on them in the road from both sides. However, the Jedi are the ones who are ambushed, as the droids split up and enter the towers, taking them by surprise and eliminating multiple clones. This ambush compromises the Republic's mission and serves as a plot point for the audience that something has gone wrong, ultimately connecting to the fact that the Republic is a traitor who's feeding strategies to the Separatists. When it comes to the scene itself, there isn't much to analyze outside of that fact. The episode is very action heavy in the beginning, with Anakin breaking a window and ziplining to the opposite tower. The scale of the battlefield is increased from what we've seen in Season 1 so far, with more droid models on screen at a time and many clone casualties. Later seasons will increase the epic factors of battle as the show's animation production increases, but this is a great starting point. The last episode, Trespass, had combat, but it didn't feel like war, while this one does. Before evacuating the tower, a clone rips the head off the tactical droid leader. As droids are basically computers, Rex uncovers the data from the head which confirms their suspicions, that the Separatists knew their plan and even the exact levels in the towers which they were stationed. Onto the fact that there was a breach of information, Anakin and Obi-Wan decide to head behind enemy lines to investigate potential spies. A viewer might be surprised that a clone trooper is the traitor behind the information leaks. This is because the clones are incredibly loyal to the Republic and have been genetically modified to be more obedient. The Clone Wars series as a whole has a major theme about clone individualism, and we see that throughout many characters along the way, but also episodes like this which highlight specific instances of outlier behavior. Season 1 previously explored a traitor with Captain Argaius, a Senate commando who broke Nute Gunray out in Cloak of Darkness. He told Commander Gree, "A clone like you would never understand," and talked about how he wanted a life and could make his own judgments. Now, the Hidden Enemy will put the traitor archetype onto a clone and show that they are also capable of making judgments and decisions against the Republic and actually making decisions for themselves. The Deserter is another episode that focuses on such individualism and judgment. While Anakin and Obi-Wan head to the enemy base, Rex and Cody follow the trail of the spy, which is quite easy as the spy left their comlink and overheard the conversation, which gives them a heads up. They chase the spy down the hallway but arrive at the mess hall, and it's ironic imagery because all clones look the same, and thus the spy is indecipherable from the crowd. It reminds me of tropes from action movies such as Indiana Jones, where a chased villain loses himself in the crowd. While on the way to the Separatist base, there is some banter between Obi-Wan and Anakin. I say this a lot on this series because frankly it does happen a lot on the show, but it does go a long way to really illustrate that they were indeed best friends. When Obi-Wan says, "You are my brother, Anakin," he really meant it. At the Separatist base, Ventress reveals herself, which results in more of Obi-Wan's standard sarcasm. Back at the base, Rex and Cody trace the fact that the spy has been sending information from Sergeant Slick's barracks. They presume that one of Slick's men is the spy, and not Slick himself, because if someone is a leader, they are held to higher standards and would presumably be more loyal to the Republic. When they arrive at Slick's barracks, Slick tries to buy himself time and avoid confrontation with his men, but Rex and Cody insist and call them forward right away to address the issue. In the barracks, they interrogate the squad and find a clone, who is a bit nervous, who seems to obsessively clean his gun after every battle, 2 men who are in the mess hall, and 1 who is in the med bay. In a way, it becomes kind of a mystery where Rex and Cody and the audience must deduce who is the spy based on the locations and activities of the squad members. The clone Chopper seems suspicious, but then reveals that he was hiding and stringing together droid fingers. This process is somewhat like what happens in real wars, with soldiers taking ears or fingers as trophies from the enemies they kill. It's forbidden to collect trophies on the battlefield for clones, so Chopper does seem suspicious, but while what he was doing is morally questionable, he isn't the traitor. Sergeant Slick pushes too hard in trying to make everyone else believe Chopper is guilty, and by doing so he turns Chopper against him and forces him to speak and show that Slick himself is the traitor, because Slick knows that the Jedi are at the Separatist base when Rex and Cody never mentioned it to anyone else. Connecting back to the beginning that the spy left the comlink on and overheard their plans. Slick punches Cody and tries to make an escape. Exposed, Slick explodes the weapons depot, destroying walkers and gunships alike, which basically castrates the Republic's offensive capabilities on Christophsis. This is why that when the Clone Wars movie starts, the Republic is desperately in need of reinforcements and on the defensive. More references to the Clone Wars movie present themselves, with the Separatist leader from it adventures his squid chip, which he uses to capture Rada the Hutt. During the lightsaber fight, it is revealed that the Jedi were lured away from their Republic base so Slick could destroy their weapons depot and allow the Separatists to take the world easily. Rex and Cody nearly capture Slick, but he's aggressive and gets out of gunpoint and engages them in hand-to-hand combat. Slick questions why they blindly follow orders and admits that while Ventress gave him money, she offered him freedom. Just like Captain Argaius to Commander Gree, Slick says to Rex, "You wouldn't understand," which assumes that most clones are incapable of making judgments and are sheep to the Republic. As time goes on, we see Rex make many judgments of his own, even in the last episode, Trespass, where Rex called out Chairman Cho's desire to attack the native Talls. Most famously would be how he goes against General Krell. Anakin wonders how Slick could betray his brothers, and Slick says, "Only a Jedi would ask that. It's the Jedi who keep my brothers enslaved. We do your bidding, we serve at your whim. I just wanted something more." Slick says that he loved his brothers and was doing all of this for the clones, but it's ironic because he ultimately put clones at risk and cost some of their lives. He didn't become the very thing he swore to destroy, but he did sacrifice his honor and morality by trying to reach an honorable ideal, but by going about the wrong way. The notion of slavery that Slick presents is very analytically interesting. He's correct in his understanding that the clones have the sole function of serving the Republic and Jedi, and have no freedom to deviate from their birth objective. Slavery is present in Star Wars in other ways, most commonly seen with Anakin as a child to Watto and the Hutts. The way I see Vader is that he is a slave to Palpatine, serving his master's will, and doesn't have much choice outside of that, making Anakin's life a full circle. The Clone Wars also presents Anakin as a slave to the Jedi. He loves Padme but isn't able to do that freely and has to obey the code and orders of the Jedi. When Slick says that only a Jedi would ask that, when Anakin questions his betrayal, it shows that Slick sees the Jedi as enslavers, and it's ironic that Anakin is the one questioning Slick's betrayal, as from certain perspectives the Jedi are, and eventually Palpatine will more severely, enslave Anakin. Like Slick, Anakin will also betray his brothers in order for what he deems to be freedom. The whole dilemma of the clone army is a moral one that is thrust onto the Jedi against their will. Palpatine orchestrated the political factors of the Separatist alliance and the movement towards war, while secretly creating an army for the Republic that the Jedi would have no choice but to use for the galaxy's security. Some may question why the Jedi even took the army, and more so when Jango Fett was the model for the clones, but it really was because they had no choice in doing so, just like how the clones had no choice in their creation for war. They're both victims to Palpatine's will for destruction. General Krell most definitely treats the clones like slaves or objects, but most of the Jedi we see on the show don't. Plo Koon values each of their lives. Yoda sees them as individuals with the Force residing in them. Time and time again we see the Jedi risk themselves to save their trusted commanders. The moral question of the creation of thousands and thousands of men in a lab to fight and die for you is an unsettling one, and is a situation the Jedi allow which could make them be seen as villains in the way that Slick suggests. As the war goes on, public opinion turns against the Jedi and ultimately allows for Palpatine to get rid of them without an uproar.